So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me here tonight. My name is Shannon Ayers, and I'm the Education Division Lead for Citizens Defending Freedom in Collin County. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that serves to equip and empower the citizens of Collin County and to ensure that their rights are protected, not violated. Education is one of 4 divisions that we focus on, but in the interest of time tonight, I'm not going to go through all those. But if you do want to know more about what we do, you can always go to our website at citizensdefendingfreedom.com. So I want to start by saying thank you for allowing us to come tonight and for being proactive on this very important issue. While preparing for tonight, I did go to your website and I found that you already have implemented HB 900 in your language, in your EFB language on the website, so I thank you so much for that. That's not all schools have done that, so thank you for being proactive. Okay, so I'm trying to next slide. Okay, so I'm going to spend the majority of, this is my next, I'm doing 2 different computers here. So I'm going to spend the majority of my time tonight giving you important information about historically trusted organizations in regards to library books that districts have relied on for as long as most of us can remember, but who have now unfortunately betrayed that trust. As an organization, we've also conducted audits of the school libraries in Collin County, including here in Princeton, ISD. So I'll also be sharing what we found here in Princeton, and then of course we're going to be giving you some recommendations at the end. So before I start, before we dive in, I do want to let you guys know that I am going to be presenting some stuff that is not very appropriate for children. So if you do have children in the room, I do recommend that you take them out and maybe watch this later when you're by yourself. If you're watching online as well, remove any kids from the room because some of this content is really very graphic. Also, some of it is too graphic for me to put into a slide, and so I've created QR codes. So anybody who wants to see what I'm talking about, have your phones out, have them ready, have the camera out, and you can use the QR codes in the slides. The same for the board. I do have packets for each of you that I will give to Cindy, so you can actually have hard copies of what I'm talking about. But for the purposes of tonight, if you'll use the QR codes, that will be helpful. Okay, so these are the once trusted organizations that I'm going to be talking about tonight. Hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll see that these organizations have made it very clear that their intention is to provide material that indoctrinates, sexualizes, and harms our children. So we're going to start with the ALA. Meet the ALA president, Ms. Emily Drabinski. Emily is a self-proclaimed Marxist, and after being elected, she tweeted, "I just cannot believe that a Marxist lesbian who believes that power can be built and wielded collectively on behalf of the public good is the president-elect of the ALA Library, and we at CDF cannot believe that either." She was interviewed in this article that I posted here, Creating a Socialist Vision for Public Libraries. It's a conversation with her in Red Fault magazine. So I highly encourage anyone who wants to read more about her to read that. It's very enlightening. She's proclaimed the goal of queering the landscape of library publishing and scholarship. She's an instructor at the Radical Librarianship Institute, which pushes for widespread systemic change that is centered on social and racial equality, collective action, etc. She most recently has said legislators have proposed laws prohibiting sexually explicit materials in school libraries, a solution for a problem that profoundly does not exist. So she's denying that these books exist in our libraries. The ALA has become an institution that has openly embraced cultural Marxism, critical race theory, and gender ideology, all while creating barriers for people of faith and other concerned citizens. And we at CDF believe that those who continue to submit to the ALA's authority are allowing the continued use of taxpayer dollars to support these very divisive and dangerous ideologies. So while these are most certainly not all of the reasons we can no longer trust the ALA, these are the few that I'm going to briefly touch on tonight. First, they advocate for sexually explicit content. They thwart faith-based library events, and they actively work against parents. So how do they, whoops, wrong way. So how do they advocate for sexually explicit content? Well, they kick off a National Library Week with a highly anticipated, that's their words, not mine, a highly anticipated list of the most challenged sexually explicit books aimed at children, encouraging readers to take action and, quote, protect their freedom to read highly sexualized material. These are 4 of the 13 books that they actually published this year. This is their national, So this is their national press release in which they called on, quote, readers everywhere to show their commitment to the freedom to read by doing something to protect it. You can see that quote at the bottom. They also say that by releasing this list every year, that they're recognizing all of the brave authors whose work challenges readers with stories that disrupt the status quo and offer fresh perspectives on tough issues. So these are 3 of those books. I've blurred out the picture on the left, but these 3 books are on that list. As you can see, well, you may not be able to see, but these books graphically depict oral sex, masturbation, and then Me and Earl and the Dying Girl is too graphic for me to read an excerpt from, so I am going to provide the QR code for that. If you do want to just point your phone, your camera at that QR code, and that will pull up excerpts throughout that book with page numbers and everything for you to look at. They also offer a top 10 list of graphic novels for teens. This book is called Let's Talk About It. This book has all kinds of things in it. Top 10 list, it's Let's Talk About It, the Teen's Guide, I can't read it, to relationships and being a human. This was on their top 10 list, I believe, in 2022, you can see there. And in it, this is just one excerpt that I'm not going to read fully, but it talks about having an A-load of fun with a healthy heaping of lube, applying broad pressure to the outside of the entrance, circling your butthole with your finger, dipping the tip of your finger inside, letting your anus pull it in when it's ready, diving deeper with your finger or butt plug. This is just a very small portion of what is in this book. It is very graphic, and it was on their top 10 list of graphic novels for teens, the ALA's top 10 list. It also, if the words aren't enough for you, it also offers very graphic pictures, which I blurred out here, but this QR code will take you to the pictures that are in this book that is part of the 2022 Great Graphic Novels for Teens from the ALA. So I encourage you to look at those. I mean, I don't, but I do. So the ALA also thwarts faith-based library events. This is a video that's not going to work. So I'm just going to describe what's in it. Basically, it's an ALA director providing recommendations on how libraries could legally block Brave Book story hours from their libraries. Kirk Cameron from Brave Book Story Hour, or Brave Book Books, wanted to host story hours in public libraries all across the country on August 5th last year. And so he encouraged all librarians across the country to do that. And the ALA set forth very quickly to educate librarians across the country on how they could legally block these story hours from taking place. And so in this video, she does give several ideas to librarians on what to do, one of which was, well, what if your library, this is a quote, what if your library decided to offer a whole host of programs in its meeting rooms on August 5th, making it unavailable to the public? So they were actually, giving out advice on how they could block these story hours from taking place. And I think it's worth noting that the ALA, in terms of these sexually explicit books that I talked about, when it comes to those, they're very much saying that the reason you have to keep these books in your school libraries is because of the First Amendment. They want to protect the First Amendment of these children. But when it comes to wholesome books and story hours, they are fine with blocking those. So there's a little bit of hypocrisy there. This is another video. The ALA actively works against parents. Video that won't play, but it is another ALA director who is encouraging librarians on how, or instructing them and educating them on how to hide certain content in your library as a librarian, how to give children access to content in the libraries without parents' knowledge. And I'm not going to go through the steps of how she did that because I don't want to give anybody any ideas, but it is a very detailed description of how you can hide content in your library so that parents don't know what you have there, but kids can access it. And they also encourage librarians to sneak in controversial content. So these are just 3 of the things that the ALA, in my opinion, has done to make it so that we can't trust them anymore. Unfortunately, I mean, there was a lot of institutions that we've trusted for a very long time. This is one of them. But if you don't, I'm not going to go through all the things that we found about the ALA, but if you want more information about them, this QR code will take you to our website, which has a toolkit on there and an ALA guidance for anybody who wants to see even more about what the ALA has been up to. So we do have Texas State Library and Archives Commission, or otherwise known as TSLAC, and the TEA have put forth standards and guidelines for all Texas libraries. This has been around for a while, but TSLAC has officially cut ties with the ALA, but their library standards here they are still very heavily informed by the ALA. There are 3 pages. This is a 57-page document, but at the end there's 3 pages of footnotes, and almost 40% of those footnotes will lead you right back to the ALA. So even though they're trying, they have officially cut ties with them, their guidelines are still very informed by the ALA. So the influence of the ALA and the TLA permeates our entire library system, and so we believe that the work to clean up your libraries has to be done at the local level. So now we're going to move on to Scholastic, another one of those organizations that I'm sure you guys remember. I certainly do as a kid. I remember Scholastic book fairs, always loved them. Back then, they promoted wholesome books like Clifford the Big Red Dog and classics like Charlotte's Web. Unfortunately, now that's not the case. They promote sexually explicit content as well as harmful ideologies that really the vast majority of families don't want being taught in our schools. It's to be taught at home. This is the CEO and president of Scholastic. His name is Peter Warwick. He's also the president of Thompson Reuter Foundation that fights for social justice to make children's publishing houses pro-transgender. The foundation also heads an initiative called Openly. I highly recommend that you Google that and look at it. It really gives you a very good insight into what his priorities are. The previous CEO of Scholastic made a comment, said that he believed, he's now deceased, but he said that he believed Scholastic could make the greatest impact by continuing to promote the work of LGBTQIA+ creators, including the support and amplification of transgender and non-binary voices, and that they would continue to support all authors of the same kind of work with they would work hard to find and promote these authors and these books. And the current CEO, Peter Warwick, has vowed to continue that vision for Scholastic. So welcome to your new Scholastic Book Fair. This book is called Melissa, written by Alex Gino. Used to be called George. They changed it in honor of his, I believe in honor of his transition, his personal transition. This book is not only put in Scholastic book fairs, but it is actually published by Scholastic, and they're very proud of it. One quote from there, George had been reading websites about transitioning since Scott had taught her how to clear the web browser history on Mom's computer. So this is recommended for grades 3 through 7, third graders, and of course introduces the idea of hiding or hiding what you're seeking on the internet from your parents. It also, this book introduces the term transitioning. Again, remember, third graders. Children taking androgen blockers, sex change surgeries, searching the internet to find information on how a boy can become a girl, and shutting out unsupportive parents, all in this book, and all while omitting the risks of transitioning and suggesting it's a simple solution that will fix all the problems of a child struggling with gender dysphoria. It does not mention anything about the negative side effects of transitioning. Welcome to St. Hell, My Trans Teen Adventure is another book that Scholastic pushes in their book fairs. This book follows the author's real-life experiences through comic book style images. As you can see on the right, it is definitely geared towards younger kids. It depicts many things, such as transitioning using testosterone injections. Yes, there are pictures of that. Binding and packers, and this is geared towards 14-year-old kids. It's worth noting the World Health Organization recently, January 15th of this year, put out some guidance on transitioning children. They were asked why, or if they would why they're only covering adults now and not also children. It's because they searched for the evidence, and the evidence base for children and adolescents is limited and variable regarding the longer-term outcomes of gender-affirming care for children or adolescents. So they're abandoning that care for children. Also, the American College of Pediatricians put out a statement in February this year, or this year. Over 60 studies were analyzed for this paper to come out, and in it, they say there's no evidence-based proof that gender-affirming therapy is affirming to the health of gender-incongruent youth. So I don't know that we should be giving them books on things that are obviously not helpful for them. Kirkus is a reviewer. The librarians, when they curate their libraries, depend on these reviewing companies to review books so that they can decide whether or not they want to put it in their libraries, because they can't read every single book. Kirkus has been around for a long time. There are other book reviewing companies, but they, unfortunately, again, can no longer be trusted. So these are two books that I just pulled of reviews that they did for these books. For A Court of Mist and Fury, they say, this book hits the spot for fans of dark, lush, sexy fantasy, and that's for your kids 14 and up. And What Girls Are Made Of, they say, is unflinchingly candid, unapologetically girl, and devastatingly vital for your 13 to 17-year-old. So I'm going to give you a QR code for What Girls Are Made Of. In the same site that this QR code is taking you to, if you go to the home page of this site, you can also look up the other book, which was A Court of Mist and Fury, and they will have excerpts. This site, and I'm going to put it at the end of the website, at the end of my presentation as well, will give you, you can look up all kinds of books and see what's in them. These are excerpts from the books so that you don't have to read the whole book, but all of the excerpts in question are there. So use your phone if you want to read the excerpts from this gem. Also, the YALSA, which is the youth division of the ALA, thought it was worth mentioning, made this book a top 10 best fiction book in 2018. So once again, the ALA promoting really great, wholesome stuff. So now we're going to move on to Princeton and what we found. We searched 408 titles. That list of books came from one of the people who was very instrumental in writing the recently passed HB 900 law. So she's very familiar with the definitions that were put forth in that law. And so she has over 1,000 books, actually, that need to be looked for. But these 408, she felt very sure, fell within the guidelines of HB 900. We did find, out of those 408 titles, we searched every one of them. We had a great volunteer do that for us. And she found 148 of those 408 titles in the Princeton libraries. I did provide that list to the district, and as of today, almost all of them have been removed for review. So I'm very happy to say that you have a great board who's really very interested in taking action on this very important issue. So thank you guys for doing that. These books have content more than what we just discussed. Boys having sex with boys, girls having sex with girls, boys having sex with girls, incest, pedophilia, transgender confusion, as I've shown, drug use, abortions, deviant sex, bestiality, sadomasochism. It's all in these books. So the other thing I noticed when I was preparing for this, I went to your website and saw that you guys subscribe to the Gale Learning Database. This is your version, I think, of an online. It's a very large company. It services most schools in the country. This and one other company called EBSCO service most of the schools in the country. This one, I went on your website and just did a generic, really benign search, as if I was going to write a research paper, and I found, well, first of all, I guess I forgot about this. There are links within this learning database that your kids have access to that point minor children to hardcore pornography websites, and their online school computer content filter won't stop it. So your school computer content filter will not stop this because it's a paid subscription that the taxpayer, the school district, is paying for. So I did a little search. You can go on your own website, the Princeton ISD website, and you hit any of these little purple Gale boxes. I did, again, a benign search and was immediately offered a sex toys option. I clicked on the sex toys, and it pulled up all of these articles about sex toys. And if you click on those articles, there are links within those articles that take you to different websites that offer sex toys for men, sex toys for women, and also some graphic content that I didn't include here. But all that came, I got to all of that through the Gale Learning Database. So I will say, when I found this, I did go straight to your superintendent, and I let him know what I found. He was very proactive and called Gale himself and told them what he found. He was able, by the way, to confirm what I had seen. He was able to duplicate it. And so he called them, and they apparently gave him ways to block that so that your kids now no longer can access that material, which is a great thing. My question is, why was it there in the first place? Because this is a closed database. This is not access to the internet. This is a closed system. They manually select what they're putting in this database for your kids. Not the district, Gale. Gale is choosing what goes in these databases. So I don't know why it was there in the first place. Again, I think we've got a situation where we can't trust this organization. Unfortunately, sadly, I hate giving problems and not giving solutions, but I don't have a solution for this one. The only other option for this type of learning database is just as bad, unfortunately. And so this is what we've got right now. So really, I'm pointing this out tonight just to let you guys know, and so you're aware. Empower and equip is what we do. And parents also to be aware that just know that just because your kid is on a subscription, private-based, based taxpayer-funded school device with a closed database doesn't mean that they're safe. So I would just recommend not just letting them do whatever they want when they're on the computer. I mean, definitely have the proper oversight to make sure that they're not accessing things you don't want them to see. And finally, recommendations, obviously remove the 148 books, which you guys have already done. Reviewing those now, so I'm very happy to see that. Also, we recommend that you audit your entire library collection with volunteers from the community. You do want the community standards, your community values to be reflected in the books that are in your libraries. So we do encourage that. Also, and like I said, there's way more books than the 408 that we searched for. So that's why we recommend an entire audit of the library. And then we also recommend that you cut ties with the American and Texas Library Associations and instead support the World Library Association. Also consider the following alternatives for your book fairs. I-55 book fair is an option. Literati is another one that's being used in Keller ISD right now. So if you want to talk to your friends over in Keller, I'm sure they'd be willing to tell you what they know about them. And then, of course, Skytree is the Brave Books version of book fairs. And then other helpful resources, that first one, booklooks.org, that's what I was talking about earlier, where you as a parent or as a board member can go to that website. You can look up any book title. They're not, I mean, not every book is there. It's a group of volunteers who have read painstakingly every single page of every book that they can get their hands on, and they just put the excerpts there and you make the decision. It's alphabetical, so you can look up the title and it'll tell you. They actually have a rating system. You can go by that or not. It tells you how and why they rate them the way they do. Ratedbooks.org is the same. You know, might have different books than BookLooks does. If you can't find the book you want on one, then you can look on the other. And then takebacktheclassroom.com is another one where they have books there for you with excerpts for you to look up. And then, of course, our own website, citizensdefendingfreedom.com. And with that, I have available for questions if you have any.
No questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
We will be looking at doing a workshop and updating our policies. So thank you very much for the information. Along with you and then Candy Noble from last month, we're trying to just update our information about what we're doing in our libraries and so forth. So
I did mean to mention.
What the law is.
Actually, yeah, the law has changed from when it originally passed, and I did provide you guys all with that handout there that really kind of lays out what HB 900 does and doesn't do. The vendor portion of the law, the rating portion, was struck down by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, but the part of the law that says you can't have these books in your libraries is definitely intact. So it's now illegal to have these books in your libraries. So thank you again for all you guys are doing to clean
Before
up.
you leave, a couple of things. One is, I'm not sure if it was you or someone else shared, I think I know who it shared with me, the PICO decision.
Yes.
Which gives us absolute authority to deal with books that are inappropriate, and so that we don't have to wait on a inappropriate book staying in our library. So I think all the board members had that shared with them on an email for the PICO decision. Hope we've had a chance to read that. That was some time ago, back when Judge Rehnquist was a judge, and it gives us absolute authority. In fact, in my opinion, we didn't need HB 900 after reading that, but HB 900 kind of codifies it a little bit more for Texas. The other thing is, I appreciate your work that you're doing, and it seems like that we as a board need to direct our vendors to what is acceptable. And if they're unwilling to help us in this effort, then let's find vendors that are willing to help us. Why do we have to let them or allow them to get books and trash into our school libraries for kids reading? And they certainly could come alongside us and help us, but if they're not unwilling to do it, let's find new vendors.
It's easier said than done, unfortunately. We're willing to help however we can as you curate. I know you're opening a new library soon, and so I've extended that offer to your superintendent as well. But it's going to take really, I mean, you can't trust the reviewers, you can't trust the vendors, and so that your librarians have a lot of vetting they have to do themselves. So we're absolutely willing to help with that in any way that we can. And also in terms of PICO, that law says that the school board has the authority to not only remove pervasively vulgar books like we talked about tonight, but also educationally unsuitable. And that language is in the handout that I gave you all, because the HB 900 law kind of uses PICO as well. So just FYI.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you guys so much.